Hello, everyone. So nice to see you back today. If you can hear me, please leave a little message in the chat. Maybe let me know where you're watching from. It'd be great to know where people are today. All right, I can see we've got a couple of viewers. Hello. I'd love to hear from you. Leave me a message in the chat just to let me know that the audio and everything is working, and we'll get started. So today's lesson is going to be all about the speaking exam for the PET B1. If you're preparing for that, then this might be useful for you, or maybe you're just here to say hello. Okay, so like I said, our lesson today is all about the B1 speaking exam. In this class, we're going to focus just on part one of the exam. So we'll also have a look at what the different parts of the exam are. We'll have a look at some examples of one example of students doing the exam. And then we'll have a look at some example questions and answers. And then I think at the end of today's lesson, I'd like to talk about some common errors that I see students making as a speaking examiner. So that's a nice, something you want to try and avoid. Okay, good. We can see we've got some people watching today. So leave me a message in the chat, say hello. I'd love to know if my microphone's working, and also I'd love to hear where you're watching from. Okay, right, let's get started. So let me just share my screen with you. And again, if I have any technical problems or you can't see or can't hear, please tell me in the chat. I can see it and then try to fix it. Okay. Right, let me share my screen and we'll get started. Here we are. Okay, super. All right, let me just, I'm seeing a black screen, so I'm gonna stop sharing and try that again. Thank you, Robin, good to know that works. All right, now this should work this time. Please tell me if it doesn't. Whoop. Is this working? Yes, that looks better. Okay, I thought we'd start today with a little joke. Maybe not a very funny joke. What type of band never plays music? What type of band never plays music? I'm going to leave you to think about that. And if you think you might know what it is, then please just tell me. Leave me a message in the chat, and I will reveal the answer later on. But maybe just something to think about. What type of band never plays music? I'm going to give you a clue. It's a type of band that I have here in my office. It's a type of band that doesn't contain any instruments. All right, Robin, that's too easy. Giving it away for everyone. Thank you. All right, let's move on. So this is what we're looking at in today's lesson. Okay, we have, first of all, a general overview of the speaking exam. We'll have a look at the marking criteria, in particular, those parts that are relevant for part one, which is what we're focusing on today. And we'll look at some things to avoid, some things just not to do in the speaking exam in general. We'll have a look at an example video, like I said before. We will we'll do some example questions and look at some typical topics that we commonly see in part one of the speaking. And we'll also have a look at some common errors, okay, mistakes that students often make. Okay, yeah, you've all got it. Rubber band, a terrible joke. I apologize. Okay, so let's zoom on. Okay, so speaking exam overview. Let me just find my text function and I'll try and write something for you. So in the speaking exam at B1 level, it is 4 parts, okay? Part 1, which is what we're focusing on mostly on today, are simple interview personal questions from the examiner, okay? Personal questions from the examiner. There we go. Try and make that better. Okay, so this part of the exam, now remember, normally you do the speaking exam with another student or sometimes in a group of 3. So when let's assume that you are in a group of 2. This part of the speaking exam usually takes around 2 minutes. Okay, so that is 2 minutes in total, not 2 minutes per person. There we go. All right, so that is part 1, and that's what we're focusing on today. Part 2 is a photo description task. Okay, and that is about 1 minute per person. Okay, the examiner has 2 photos, 1 photo for each candidate. So that is 1 minute per person. Part 3 is an interactive conversation task. And in this part, the examiner will normally explain a situation and show you an image with some different options for you to choose from. And in this part of the exam, your objective is to maintain the conversation with the other candidate. All right, so I'm just going to write interactive conversation. Okay. And this part, the conversation itself will take around about 2 minutes. Not very long at all. 2 minutes. And then part 4, we have some questions. Oops. Part 4, we have questions from the examiner. These questions in part 4 are usually related to the theme of part 3. So depending what that theme is, that'll have an impact on part 4 questions. But I'm sure that we will have another lesson looking at other parts of the exam. Okay, so part 4 again is typically around 2 minutes. Okay, so although the total time that we have here is, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 7 minutes, that does not include the time that it takes examiners to give you instructions, to explain each task. So in total, the speaking exam usually takes around 10 to 12 minutes. I'm just going to write that here with my mouse. 10 to 12. Wow, terrible writing. Never mind. 10 to 12 minutes. Okay, in total. So there we go. That's the speaking exam. And let's move on to the marking criteria. Now remember, remember that we are only looking at one part of the speaking exam today. So it's very unlikely that you would use all of the things that the examiners are looking for in just this one part. Okay, so let's break this down into sections. Now, in the speaking part, we have a maximum of 5 points per category. So 5 points for grammar and vocabulary, 5 points for discourse management, 5 points for pronunciation, and 5 points for interactive communication. All right, so what are those 4 things? Just get my laser pointer. Woo, that's better. Okay, so grammar and vocabulary, I think, is fairly self-explanatory. The only thing to note is that to get those 5 points, we're looking for the candidate to be able to use a lot of the simple or all of the simple grammatical forms and simple vocabulary correctly and accurately, and try to use some of those more complex forms. So by complex forms, I mean perhaps like conditionals, or what else? What else would be good? Can't think. My brain has gone. Some of the more complicated verb tenses as well. So although you may make mistakes in using some of these more complex forms, the important thing is that you try to use them. Even if you use them incorrectly, at this level, you still get some points. Oh, I can just see we've had more people joining us. So we've got Robin, we've got Susan, that's my mom, and we've got Luis. So hi everyone. Thank you for coming. Nice to see you. Okay, on to discourse management, which sounds more complicated than it is. Discourse management is your ability to speak for an extended period of time, okay, without too much hesitation or repetition. And it's also your ability to use a range of different connectors, okay? They call them here cohesive devices, phrases that are used to organize and structure your ideas, okay? And these could be things like first, next, and then, or they could be connective phrases like and, but, although, however, because. But we're looking for, to get our 5 points, we're looking for a good range of them. Right. Pronunciation. I think we all know what pronunciation is. At B1 level, the objective really is that the examiner can understand you. It's normal that you speak with an accent. Of course, that's normal. And it's normal that intonation is sometimes a little unnatural, but for this level, we really just want to understand what you're saying and hear that the word stress and sentence stress are generally correct. And here over an interactive communication, this is not something that we're going to practice in part 1. This is something that comes later in the exam in the conversation task, but essentially this is your ability to maintain a conversation, to listen to the other person and answer and respond and make suggestions. All right. So before we move on and have a look at an example exam, I would like to talk about just some general things that you should avoid in your speaking exam. Okay, and I'm curious if anyone has any ideas. What are some things that you shouldn't do or you shouldn't say in the speaking exam in general? If you have any ideas, just write them in the chat. I'm really curious. Now, just give you a moment to think. I think there's a little delay on the chat function, but while you're thinking, maybe I can help you out. So the first thing I tell my students not to do is to give very detailed information about themselves or about where they live. That is often one of the first questions the examiner asks you. Okay, what's your name and where do you live? It's really not necessary to give a big extended answer. Okay, something like, my name is Fiona. I live in Edinburgh. It's a big city in Scotland. That is enough. Okay, we do not need a big description of your town. We don't need lots and lots of information. Oh, good, Luis. Yeah. I can see that. I'm going to pop that up on the board in a moment. Thank you for your contribution. Okay, so I'm going to put give too much information or detail about where you live. Okay, it's not necessary. Unless the examiner specifically asks you for more information, at that point, it's really not necessary. Yeah, Louise came up with a good one, so I'm going to put that inappropriate words. Okay, so these could be, things like swear words, often some more colloquial phrases we try to avoid because it's an exam. You are in an exam. Remember that. Try to keep your language polite and formal, for sure. Okay, something else I would avoid doing is generally talking about sensitive topics. Okay, now this has happened to me as an examiner when students will tell me quite sensitive information about maybe about their family or their family situation, which is fine. I don't mind them telling me that. However, the problem is the examiner has a very strict script that they have to follow, a very strict guide. So if the candidate gives some very interesting or very sensitive information, the examiner is not able to respond. Okay, so it's not going to lose you any marks, but it's just not really appropriate for the situation. Okay, so I would just avoid that. The only thing the examiner can really say to you is, okay, thank you, which, depending on what the information they've received it can seem a little cold. Okay, the other thing I would suggest not doing is talking too much more than the other person. I'm going to emphasize that, okay? Too much more than the other candidate. Okay, remember that obviously you are being assessed separately. So one person's abilities in English does not affect yours. But remember, this is an exam. You want to try and balance the conversation and give each other the opportunity to speak. And it can seem maybe a little rude if one candidate is speaking a lot more than the other and not giving them the opportunity to speak. So just remember that. Try and make it more of a balance. And equally, giving one-word answers. Please don't do that. Okay, one-word answers. Talking too much and also too little. One-word answers exam. Nah, you're not going to pass with one-word answers. If someone says, "Do you like learning English?" and you say yes, the examiner will ask why. Okay, the examiner will always ask you why. So prepare for that. Don't just give a one-word answer, please. Okay, right now I am going to share with you now a little video. We're just going to watch the first a couple of minutes of this, and this is of a real speaking exam between two real candidates. Now this video it's available on YouTube. It's from the Cambridge website, so you can see it. It's just a couple of minutes so that you can see how it works at the beginning. Okay, let's watch together. Again, please tell me if there are any problems with the sound. Louise, any terms of clothing or appearance? No. Really, no. You can wear whatever you like to the exam. Doesn't matter. If you turn up in a bikini, I wouldn't recommend it, but I'm not going to take marks from you because of your clothes. So wear something that you're comfortable in would be my recommendation. Okay, let's just watch the first little minute of this. There we go.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can I have your mark sheets, please?
Here you are.
I'm Susan Watson, and this is Radha Roy Chowdhury. What's your name?
My name is Kenza.
Where do you come from?
I'm from Algeria.
Thank you. And what's your name?
My name is Mohammed
Where do you come from?
from Saudi Arabia.
Thank you. Mohammed, do you work or are you a student?
I work in a Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you. And Kenza, do you work or are you a student?
I was a student, but I have finished at the university.
What do you do?
Now I have my own salon beauty.
Thank you. Do you think that English will be useful for you in the future?
Yes, I think that English is the most useful language in all the world because it permits us to achieve our objectives and to go further than we think.
Tell us about the people you live with.
I live with my family in my country, and we have neighbors, and some of them are cousin of us, of me. Yeah.
Kenza, how do you get to work every day?
I generally get to work by car.
What did you do yesterday evening, Mohammed?
I've been rather gathering with my friends, and we go into one Middle East restaurant here in Cambridge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now I'd like.
All right. So that is part one. And as you can see, we just had some very simple questions from the examiner. I'm just looking at the chat here. Yeah, Robin, we could rate their English level. The reason I didn't ask you to rate the English level is because in part one, if you remember, let me go back to the criteria. Where's the criteria going? We don't necessarily have an opportunity to use all of these criteria, but I am interested to know what your opinions of those two candidates were. I thought I could understand what they were both saying. I thought one candidate was a little better than the other. What do you guys think in the chat? Which of those two did you think was better? Let me just remind you. We have Kenza and Mohammed. Who did you think was the stronger candidate in that case? Okay, I'll leave you with that in the chat just to have a think about. Okay, where are we going? Sorry. Okay, so we heard some of the questions, some questions that might come up in part one. Now, before we put that into practice, I would like to talk about some of the themes that are often related to these questions. Ooh, let me see. Yeah, we've got Mohammed, we think is the stronger candidate. Okay. Yeah, so you can see just from that, like 5 minutes or less than 5 minutes, 2 minutes of speaking, you're already getting an idea of how their pronunciation is, and perhaps any small grammatical errors or things like that you notice. And that's what the assessor will be doing in the exam as well. And so it's very interesting to hear. Okay, so in part one, there are some common questions and common themes that often come up. And I wonder if you have any ideas what this might be. I'm going to start writing some on the board, And if you have any extras, any other ones, please write them in the chat. Okay, and we've got your home, daily life, friends and family, free time, education or work. And that depends really if you're doing the PET exam for schools or the regular PET exam. Travel is a common theme. Hobbies, entertainment. I think these are kind of related to free time. I'm not going to put entertainment. And the future. Okay. So these are some common themes that come up for questions. I wonder if anyone could think of one question for any of these themes and put it in the chat. I'm going to have a think of some. But if you can think of a question about free time or travel or the future, I'd love to hear your ideas. Write it in the chat for me and I'll add it here. Now, I think, let me think. I think a question about your home could be, let me just change the color. I'm going to make this red. That's nice. Okay. Question about your home could be, do you live in a house or a flat? Do you live in a house or a flat? Aha, yeah, Louise, we've got the exact same one. Great minds think alike. Good job. So an example answer to that, do you live in a house or a flat? Now remember, in part one, we're looking for a complete answer, but not a very, very extended answer. So for example, I live in a house. It has 3 bedrooms, it has a garden and a patio, and I live with my dog. There we go. It's a complete answer. The examiner doesn't really need to ask any follow-up questions, but I was only talking for maybe 30 seconds at most. Okay, any other ideas for any of the other topics? Let's see, I think I have one for the future. Do you think English will be useful to you in the future? Now, I know there are people watching who already speak English, so maybe think of a language that you are learning or that you would like to learn. And do you think that will be useful to you in the future? Maybe you could write your ideas down for me. How would you answer this question? Good one, Louise. Can we travel back to the future? Now, remember, in this part of the test, the questions are usually personal. All right, so it's a fun question. I really like it, but it's maybe not one we would see in part one, because that would be about ability and something hypothetical. Maybe we could see a question like that in part 4, but probably not in part 1. So I could answer this question by saying, now let's see, I've been learning Spanish, so I'm going to substitute English for Spanish. So I think learning Spanish will be useful for me in the future, because it will help me in my job, and it will also give me access to university if I wanted to study. And learning another language is also useful for traveling. It lets you communicate with other people when you're traveling. Okay, so that could be a good example of an answer there. Okay, now let's try and think of one more example question to write up. What theme shall we go for? Let's see. I think I have one for free time. Okay, this I think is a common question that often comes up in the exams. Can we combine questions? Now, no, Luis, you can't combine questions because the examiner will ask you them one after the other. Okay, the examiner will say, Luis, do you live in a house or a flat? Listen to your answer and then ask you another question. So we can't really combine them. If you want to combine them for the examples, yes. Of course you can. Put them in the chat. I'd love to hear your ideas. This is a common question that I've seen in exams. I've used it. It comes up very frequently. How do you normally celebrate your birthday? Well, an answer to that could be, I normally celebrate my birthday by going out with some friends. We might do an activity during the day, like going for a walk or going shopping or going to the cinema. And then in the evening, we'll usually have a party or we'll go to a bar or club and celebrate like that. Okay. And if I live in a tent or an RV, what should I answer in this question? Then you should say, I don't live in a house or a flat. I live in a tent, for example. Okay, it's perfectly fine just to say, I don't, as long as you give an alternative answer. It's possible the examiner will ask you things that you have to say no sometimes. That's fine. Okay, right. I think I would like to zoom on a little bit. We just looked at some difficult questions. I would like to look at some common errors that I see from students. Now, I'm going to write a sentence on the board, and I'd like you to tell me what's the mistake? What's wrong? Okay? So the first one is the most common mistake, and something that my students, thankfully, normally don't make this mistake because I don't shout at them, but I tell them, I remind them every time they make it. And this is, let me just write an example. I am agree. All right. So, for example, in conversation, we might see someone saying, I like to go to the beach on my holidays. And you respond with, I am agree. There's a problem there. What's the problem? What is the correct way to say that? Okay, you want to say, yes? I think the same as you. Okay, yeah, Louise, we could say, I do agree, or simply, I agree. I'm going to write that the correct version. Let's change the color. Green. Okay, I agree. What I would recommend. I do agree. We can use if we're emphasizing. The do in this case adds emphasis. Yeah, I do agree. Okay, that is grammatically correct. We can use it, but it adds extra emphasis. I agree is the standard response. Thanks, Mom. I'm glad you know that. Okay, another one. Change back to red. Red for bad. Is I think yes. Let me give you an example. I think yes. think ice cream, I think vanilla ice cream is the best flavor. And you can respond, I think yes. There's a mistake there, a little mistake. I understand what you want to say, but it's not correct. Yes, Luis, you've got it. Perfect. Extra points for you. I'm going to put it in green. I think so too is a great way to say it. I think so too. Super. Gold star. Okay. I think so too. Or we could simply say, yes, I think so. Okay, I think so too. That's a very good, alternative. Okay, another common mistake is, let me write it up. If I asked you, do you like football? And you want to say, yes, I like. Again, I understand you. I know what you want to say. What's the mistake? Yes, I like. We need an extra word. Okay, do you like football? Yes. And Mum, can you think of the complete response? What's the complete one? Because I said no one-word answers, remember? Yeah, okay, Louise, so we could say, yes, I like football. So yes, I like, in this case, football. Or, yes, I like it. Okay, remember, we always need the what it is. I like football, I like spaghetti, I like pizza. Yes, I like rock music. Or yes, I like it. Okay, we cannot just leave it at I like. Okay, let's see, how are we for time? Oof, not too much, but we have time for a couple more. The next common mistake I often see is, let me write it here. This is an interesting one. Let's see. I imagine the question, how do you spend your weekends? Okay. I spend time with my friends. We go shopping. It's very funny. What's the mistake here? This is a very, very common mistake. I've heard it from lots of students. I've heard it in lots of exams. It is a mistake. What's the problem with this phrase? Come on, guys, in the chat. You can do it. You can do it. Ooh, I might have to tell you if nobody's telling me. Yes. Good. You got it. Okay, this one. Funny. No, it's not funny. It's fun. Okay. Whoops, not fudge. Fun. Okay, remember the difference between fun and funny. Fun is something that we enjoy, something that we like. Funny is something that makes us laugh. Like a comedy program or a joke. Fun is just something that we like. Okay? Mum, that's probably your internet connection. I don't know. Maybe it's mine. I'm not sure. Okay. So we've just got a few minutes left, and I thought today, as a little treat, we could have a quiz. So, are you ready? It's very funny sometimes. It's very, and Luis, if we say something's very funny, it means that it makes us laugh a lot. So you could say, I like spending time with my friend Luis. They're very funny, as in they make me laugh a lot. So it depends on what you want to say. Okay, on some occasions, funny is correct, but I do see it misused quite a lot. Okay, quiz time. Now, I do have some funny things for you. So I have some questions. Let's see, I have 4 questions, and I have 4 pairs of glasses. So every time you get an answer correct, I will put on a pair of novelty glasses. Okay? My first question, let's see if you were paying attention. First question, nice and simple. You ready? How many parts are there in the speaking exam? How many parts in the speaking exam? Okay, I'll take answers in the chat, please. Let's see which glasses I'm gonna wear. Susan, my mum's got it right, and that's impressive since she has never done an English exam. It's 4 parts, and I think I'm going to start with my pirate glasses. Let's see. There we go. Well done, Mum, and thank you. There are 4 parts in the speaking exam, and I'm going to try and keep these on. For question 2, how long does part 1 last in total? What is the duration of time? Part 1, how long does it last? How many minutes? Remember, this is how many minutes, not per person. Remember, we do this in groups of 2. It's not 10 minutes, Mum. That's the total time. This is just part 1. Oh, we might not get it. Luis, you're right for 1 person. And if we have 2 people? Yes. Good. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to change my pirate glasses. And I think I'm going to have my party glasses. Woo. Here we go. Nice change. Thank you, guys. Okay, next question. Can you name 3 of the topics that they could ask you about in part 1? Okay, what were 3 of the topics that I mentioned before? I wrote them on the board. We had a big list of them and some example questions. Let's see if we can get them. Hey, okay, we've got hobby, we've got work, yeah, your house or your flat. Good job. Okay, I'm going to change my glasses again. Let's see, I'm going to go poop glasses. So beautiful, I know, thank you. Ooh. Okay, and the final question. These are actually quite difficult to see in. Final question. Can you name 1 thing that you must not do in the speaking exam? 1 thing you must not do in the exam. Okay, I would quite like to take these glasses off, so let's hear some ideas. 1 thing you can't do. Can't actually read in them. 1 thing that you must not do. Hey, we got it. Okay, short answers. Don't give short answers. Don't give one-word answers. Yay. Okay, and for that, I'm going to put on my personal favorite pair of glasses. Rawr! Dinosaur. All right, well, with that done, thank you everyone for taking. I'm going to stop sharing so that you can have a better look at my beautiful glasses. Here are the T-Rex. And here we have the poop. Stunning, I know. Party glasses. Absolutely gorgeous. And pirate. Oh. All right, so that's it for today. Thank you everyone so much for coming along and for your participation. To be honest, Louise, yes, you could use these glasses in the speaking exam. I've never used them as an examiner, but maybe if your exam is on Halloween, you could crack them out. So that might be quite good fun. I might give you an extra point if you come dressed as a pirate. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the lesson. Now, make sure to tune in the same time next week. We're continuing with the speaking theme. We're going to focus on part 2 of the exam next week, which is all about the photo and photo description. So make sure to like the Home Studies channel and subscribe if you haven't already, and you'll get a notification if you hit the little bell icon. You'll get a notification when we have our next live session coming up. All right, so thank you everyone for coming along. If you have any last questions, pop them in the chat. Last opportunity. Thank you, Robin. Okay, right, thank you guys. I'm gonna say bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone. See you next week.